Jake Morrison wiped the sweat from his forehead as he finished checking the water pipes in the grand mansion. The alien lady who owned this place was very rich and very scary. Her name was Lady Vexandra, and she had blue skin that seemed to glow in the sunlight. Her house was bigger than anything Jake had ever seen back on Earth. He packed his tools into his bag and walked toward the main door. The mansion had tall windows and strange decorations that looked like flowing water frozen in time. Everything here cost more money than Jake would make in 10 years. "Jake, wait!" a soft voice called from behind him. He turned around and saw Lyra Beth running down the marble steps. She was Lady Vexandra's daughter, and she was beautiful in a way that made Jake's heart beat faster. Her skin was the same blue color as her mother's, but lighter, like the sky on a clear day. Her eyes were large and silver, and when she smiled, Jake forgot about everything else. "You forgot this," she said, holding out a small tool that had fallen from his bag. "Thanks," Jake said, taking the tool. Their fingers touched for a moment, and he felt that same electric feeling he always got when she was near him. They had been meeting in secret for 8 months now. Lady Vexandra would never approve of her daughter being with a human worker. Lyra Beth was supposed to marry someone from another rich alien family, not fall in love with a guy who fixed pipes for a living. "My mother is having another dinner party tonight," Lyra Beth said quietly. "She wants me to meet the son of Lord Cathral. She thinks he would make a good husband." Jake felt his stomach twist. "Do you want to meet him?" "No," Lyra Beth said quickly. "I want to be with you. But my mother, she has plans for me. Big plans." Lady Vexandra owned the largest trading company on this planet. She bought and sold goods from dozens of different worlds. She was one of the most powerful people in this part of the galaxy, and she expected her daughter to marry someone equally powerful. "We knew this wouldn't be easy," Jake said. He wanted to hold her hand, but anyone could see them here. "I know, but sometimes I wish things were different. I wish I could just tell her about us." Jake nodded. He wished the same thing, but he knew what would happen. Lady Vexandra would fire him and probably make sure he never got work on this planet again. She might even have him sent back to Earth. "I should go," he said. "Your mother will wonder why you're talking to the repair guy for so long." Lyra Beth looked sad, but she nodded. "Meet me at the old garden tonight?" "After the dinner party?" Of course. Jake walked away from the mansion, but he could feel Lyra Beth watching him until he disappeared around the corner. 3 days later, Lyra Beth sat in the medical center feeling sick to her stomach. She had been feeling strange for weeks now, tired all the time, and food didn't taste right. Her mother had insisted she see the family doctor. Dr. Naltek was an old Zephyrian with wise eyes and gentle hands. He had been taking care of Lyra Beth since she was a baby. He ran his scanner over her body and frowned at the results. "This is very strange," he said, looking at his instruments. "What's wrong?" Lyra Beth asked. Her heart started beating faster. "According to these readings, you are pregnant." Lyra Beth stared at him. "That's impossible." Dr. Nalthek ran the scanner again. Then he ran it a third time. Each time the results were the same. "I know it seems impossible," he said slowly, "but the scanner doesn't lie. There is definitely a new life growing inside you." Lyra Beth felt the world spinning around her. When she was 16, other doctors had told her she could never have children. Her body was missing something important that Zephyrian females needed to get pregnant. The doctors had used big medical words, but the meaning was simple. She was broken. "But the other doctors said I was infertile," she whispered. "I know. I was there when they ran those tests. According to everything we know about Zephyrian biology, this pregnancy should not be possible." Dr. Nalthek looked worried. "Lyra Beth, I have to ask you something important. Have you been intimate with anyone recently?" Lyra Beth's face turned a darker shade of blue. She thought about Jake and their secret meetings in the old garden. She thought about the night 2 months ago when they had finally stopped fighting their feelings for each other. Yes, she said quietly. "Was this person another Zephyrian?" Lyra Beth shook her head. "He's human." Dr. Naltek's eyes went wide. "Human? Are you certain?" "Yes, his name is Jake Morrison. He works for the maintenance company." The doctor sat down heavily in his chair. He stared at his instruments like they had betrayed him. "This changes everything," he said. "I need to run more tests. And Lyra Beth, I have to tell your mother." "No." Lyra Beth jumped up from the examination table. "You can't tell her." "She'll kill me." "I'm sorry, but I have to. This is beyond anything we've ever seen before. Your mother needs to know." Lyra Beth felt tears starting to fall down her cheeks. Everything was about to change, and she didn't know if it would be good or bad. An hour later, Lady Vexandra stormed into the medical center like a hurricane. Her face was dark with anger, and her silver jewelry clinked as she moved. "What is the meaning of this?" she demanded. "Dr. Nalthek tells me my daughter is pregnant, but that's impossible." "I wish it were impossible," Dr. Nalthek said calmly. "But I've run every test 3 times. Lyra Beth is definitely pregnant." Lady Vexandra looked at her daughter with eyes full of confusion and rage. "Explain this to me now." Lyra Beth took a deep breath. "Mother, I've been seeing someone. A human named Jake Morrison." "A human? A human worker?" Lady Vexandra's voice got louder with each word. "You've been sneaking around with some common laborer?" "He's not common," Lyra Beth said, finding her courage. "He's kind and smart, and he cares about me." "He's poor. He's beneath us, and he's not even our species." Dr. Nalthek cleared his throat. "Lady Vexandra, if I may, this pregnancy raises some very important questions. According to our science, cross-species reproduction between humans and Zephyrians should be impossible. Yet here we are." Lady Vexandra turned to stare at him. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying we might need to reconsider everything we thought we knew about human biology. And about your daughter's condition." The room fell silent. Lady Vexandra looked at her daughter, who was crying quietly. She looked at the doctor, who seemed as confused as she felt. And she looked at the test results that said something impossible had happened. For the first time in her life, Lady Vexandra didn't know what to do. Dr. Elena Rodriguez had been studying alien biology for 15 years, but she had never seen anything like this. She stood in her laboratory on the human settlement, looking at the blood samples that Dr. Nalthek had sent her. The results made no sense at all. "This can't be right," she said to herself, running the tests again. Her assistant, Dr. Marcus Webb, looked over her shoulder at the computer screen. "What are you seeing?" "The Zephyrian female is definitely pregnant. But look at this genetic pattern. The baby has DNA from both species, but it's not just mixed together. It's like the human DNA is actively repairing damage in the Zephyrian DNA." Marcus frowned. "That's impossible. Human genetics don't work that way." "That's what I thought too. But the evidence is right here." Elena had been called in because she was the best human doctor on the planet. When Lady Vexandra learned that her daughter was carrying a human Zephyrian baby, she had demanded answers. She wanted to know how this had happened and what it meant for her family. A soft chime indicated someone was at the laboratory door. Elena looked up to see a tall Zephyrian in expensive robes. Behind him stood Lady Vexandra, looking tired and worried. "Dr. Rodriguez," the Zephyrian said in perfect English. "I am Professor Xyloth from the Imperial Science Academy. Lady Vexandra has asked me to work with you on this situation." Elena had heard of Professor Xyloth. He was one of the most respected biologists in Zephyrian society. The fact that he was here meant this case was very important. "Professor, welcome. I have to admit I'm completely puzzled by what I'm seeing." Professor Xyloth nodded. "As am I. May I see the test results?" Elena showed him the data on her computer. Professor Xyloth studied the numbers for a long time, his silver eyes growing wider with each screen. "Fascinating," he said finally. "The human genetic material appears to contain what I can only describe as bridge sequences." "Bridge sequences?" Elena asked. "Genetic codes that can connect with and repair damage in other species' DNA. I've never seen anything like it." Lady Vexandra stepped forward. "What does this mean for my daughter?" Professor Xyloth looked at her carefully. "It means your daughter's pregnancy might not be the accident we thought it was. It might be the most important discovery in modern biology." Elena felt excited and scared at the same time. "We need to study the human involved. Jake Morrison. His genetic pattern might hold the key to understanding this." "I've already sent for him," Lady Vexandra said. "He should be here soon." 20 minutes later, Jake Morrison walked into the laboratory looking nervous and confused. He had been working on a construction site when security guards came to get him. They wouldn't tell him what was wrong, only that Lady Vexandra wanted to see him immediately. "Jake," Lady Vexandra said coldly, "these doctors need to run some tests on you." Jake looked around the room at all the serious faces. "Tests? What kind of tests? Is Lyra Beth okay?" "Your girlfriend is fine," Elena said gently. "But we need to understand something about your biology. This won't hurt, I promise." Jake let them take blood samples and run scanners over his body. He answered questions about his family history and where he came from on Earth. The whole time, he kept asking about Lyra Beth, but no one would give him straight answers. After 2 hours of testing, Elena and Professor Xyloth looked at the results together. What they found made them both sit down hard in their chairs. "This is remarkable," Professor Xyloth said quietly. "Jake," Elena said, "do you know anything about your family history? Your grandparents or great-grandparents?" Jake shrugged. "Not much. My great-grandmother always said our family was special, but I thought she was just being proud." "Why?" "Your DNA contains genetic markers from at least 3 different alien species, including Zephyrian." Jake stared at her. "That's impossible. I'm human." "You are human," Professor Xyloth said, "but your ancestors were not purely human. Somewhere in your family line there was contact with other species." Lady Vexandra looked shocked. "Are you saying humans and aliens have been mixing for generations?" "It appears so," Elena said. "And Jake's genetic pattern suggests he's what we might call a universal donor. His DNA can adapt to and repair genetic damage in multiple alien species." Professor Xyloth pulled up another screen of data. "Lady Vexandra, I need to ask you something personal. Has your family ever had unexplained pregnancies before? Babies born when they shouldn't have been possible?" Lady Vexandra was quiet for a long moment. "My grandmother," she said finally. "She had a baby late in life when the doctor said she was too old. And my great-aunt, she was told she couldn't have children, but she had 3. Were any of the fathers human?" Elena asked. I don't know. That was a long time ago, and my family doesn't talk about embarrassing things." Professor Xyloth and Elena exchanged looks. They were both thinking the same thing. This wasn't the first time this had happened. "We need to do more research," Elena said. "This could change everything we know about human-alien relationships." Jake finally spoke up. "Can someone please tell me what this means for Lyra Beth and the baby?" Elena smiled at him. "It means your baby is going to be very healthy and very special." Over the next few days, Elena and Professor Xyloth worked together constantly. They found more evidence that humans were genetically compatible with many alien species. They discovered that human DNA had special properties that could fix genetic problems that had plagued alien races for centuries. But they also found something troubling. When they sent their preliminary results to the Galactic Medical Council, the response was immediate and angry. "They want us to stop our research," Elena told Professor Xyloth. "They're saying it's dangerous to study cross-species genetics." Professor Xyloth looked worried. "There are powerful people who don't want this information to become public. If humans can help solve genetic problems, it changes the balance of power in the galaxy." Elena thought about Jake and Lyra Beth, who were just 2 people in love. They had no idea that their relationship might be the key to helping millions of beings across the galaxy. "What do we do?" she asked. "We keep working," Professor Xyloth said firmly, "but we do it quietly. And we prepare for the storm that's coming." Lady Vexandra had been listening to their conversation from the doorway. "What storm?" "The storm that happens when people in power realize they might lose that power," Elena said. "Your daughter's pregnancy isn't just a personal matter anymore. It's political." Lady Vexandra felt a chill run down her spine. She had built her fortune by understanding politics and power, and she knew that when powerful people felt threatened, they did dangerous things. "How long do we have?" she asked. "Not long," Professor Xyloth said. "Word is already spreading. Soon everyone in the galaxy will know about the human who made an infertile Zephyrian pregnant." Elena looked at her computer screen, where data about human genetic compatibility continued to scroll past. Each new discovery was more amazing than the last, but she knew that amazing discoveries could be dangerous in the wrong hands. "We need to protect Jake and Lyra Beth," she said, "because there are going to be a lot of people who want to use them for their own purposes." Lady Vexandra nodded grimly. She had spent her whole life protecting her family's interests. Now she would have to protect her family's lives. Ambassador Kate Sullivan had dealt with many crises during her 20 years as a diplomat, but nothing like this. She sat in her office on the human embassy ship, reading reports that made her head spin. "How did this get out so fast?" she asked her aide, General Rick Thompson. "Someone leaked the medical records," Rick said grimly. "Now every news service in the galaxy is running the story. 'Human worker makes alien noble pregnant' is the headline on at least 50 different planets." Kate rubbed her temples. 3 days ago, she had never heard of Jake Morrison or Lyra Beth. Now their faces were on every news screen from here to the outer rim. What's the reaction been like? Mixed. Some species are calling it a miracle. Others are calling it contamination. The Kethrak Empire has already filed a formal complaint with the Galactic Council. Kate wasn't surprised. The Kethrak were traditional and didn't like change. They probably saw this pregnancy as a threat to their pure bloodlines. What about the other species? That's where it gets interesting. We've received secret messages from at least 12 different governments. They all want the same thing: access to human genetic material for their own fertility problems. Kate felt a cold fear in her stomach. They want to use humans as breeding stock. Some of them, yes. Others are offering trade deals, research partnerships, even military alliances. Apparently, a lot of species have been dealing with fertility problems for centuries. A soft chime indicated an incoming message. Kate's secretary appeared on the screen looking worried. "Ambassador, you have an urgent call from Lady Vexandra. Put her through." Lady Vexandra's blue face appeared on the screen. She looked exhausted and frightened. "Ambassador Sullivan, I need your help. My daughter and Mr. Morrison are in danger." "What kind of danger?" "This morning, protesters gathered outside my home. Some want to hurt my daughter for mixing with a human. Others want to kidnap Mr. Morrison to use his genetic material. I've hired private security, but I don't think it's enough." Kate made a quick decision. "General Thompson will send a security team immediately." "Where are they now?" "In a safe house in the mountains." "But Ambassador, there's something else. The Galactic Trade Council has called an emergency meeting. They want to discuss new regulations for human-alien relationships." After the call ended, Kate stared out the window at the stars. She had always known that humanity's place in the galaxy was complicated. Humans were newer to space travel than most species, but they were also more adaptable. Now it seemed that adaptability extended to their very DNA. "Rick, I need you to contact Earth immediately. Tell them we have a situation that could affect all of humanity." "Already done. President Martinez is flying out here personally." "Good. And Rick, start moving our people to more secure locations. If this gets worse, every human in the galaxy could become a target." On the planet below, Jake Morrison sat in a small cabin in the mountains, feeling like his world had turned upside down. 3 days ago, he had been a simple maintenance worker. Now he was supposedly the most important human in the galaxy. Lyra Beth sat beside him on the couch, her hand resting on her still flat stomach. She looked scared but determined. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I never meant for this to happen." "It's not your fault," Jake said, taking her hand. "We couldn't have known that falling in love would start a galactic crisis." Through the window, they could see the security guards that Lady Vexandra had hired. The guards looked nervous and they kept checking their weapons. "What do you think will happen to us?" Lyra Beth asked. "I don't know. But whatever happens, we'll face it together." Lady Vexandra walked into the room carrying a portable communication device. Her face was grim. "I've just spoken with the human ambassador. The situation is getting worse. And how much worse?" Jake asked. 3 alien governments have formally requested that humans be classified as a controlled genetic resource. They want all human reproduction to be monitored and regulated. Lyra Beth gasped. "They want to control who humans can have children with?" "Some of them want more than that. The Vorthak Collective has suggested that humans should be relocated to special colonies where their genetic material can be properly managed." Jake stood up angrily. "They want to put us in camps? Like we're animals?" "That's exactly what they want," Lady Vexandra said. "But there's resistance too. Several species are arguing that forced genetic control violates galactic law. They're saying humans have the right to choose their own partners." A loud bang from outside made them all jump. Through the window, they could see protesters climbing up the mountain path toward the cabin. Some carried signs that said, "Stop genetic contamination," while others said, "Save our species." "We need to move," Lady Vexandra said. "Now." As they grabbed their few belongings, Jake thought about how different his life had been just a week ago. He had been worried about fixing water pipes and saving money for a better apartment. Now he was running from angry crowds because his DNA might be the key to saving or destroying entire civilizations. Meanwhile, in the capital city, Professor Xyloth was having the worst day of his career. His research laboratory had been raided by government agents who took all of his data about human Zephyrian genetics. They said it was for security reasons, but he knew the real reason. Powerful people were scared. He sat in his empty lab, talking to Dr. Elena Rodriguez over a secure communication link. They took everything, he said sadly. Months of work gone. Same here, Elena replied. Human government agents came this morning. They said the research was too sensitive to continue, but we were so close to understanding how human DNA works. We could have helped so many species solve their fertility problems. I know, but some people don't want those problems solved. If fertility becomes easy, it changes which families and governments stay in power. Professor Xyloth understood. In Zephyrian society, the most powerful families were often those with the most children. If suddenly everyone could have children easily, the old power structures would collapse. What do we do now? He asked. We keep our research hidden and wait for things to calm down, and we hope that Jake and Lyra Beth stay safe long enough for their baby to be born. On the other side of the galaxy, Council Leader Mordak was holding an emergency session of the Galactic Trade Council. Representatives from dozens of species sat around a massive circular table, all arguing at once. Humans must be controlled, shouted the Kethrak representative. They are genetically contaminating our pure bloodlines. Humans should be free to choose their own partners, argued the delegate from Andromeda Prime. This is a matter of individual rights. Individual rights are less important than species survival, said another voice. If humans can solve our fertility crisis, they have a duty to help. Council Leader Mordak banged his gavel for order. The question before us is simple. Are humans a sovereign species with full rights, or are they a genetic resource to be managed for the good of the galaxy? The room fell silent. Everyone knew that the answer to this question would determine humanity's future in space. I call for a formal vote, Mordak continued. All in favor of classifying humans as a controlled genetic resource? 12 hands went up. All opposed? 10 hands went up. Abstaining? 8 hands went up. The motion fails by lack of majority. Humans retain their sovereignty. For now. But Mordak knew this wasn't over. The vote had been too close, and too many powerful species wanted control over human genetics. This debate would continue, and next time the results might be different. Back in the mountain cabin, Jake held Lyra Beth close as they listened to news reports about the vote. They had won this round, but barely. What happens next? Lyra Beth asked. We prove them wrong, Jake said firmly. We show the galaxy that love is stronger than politics. That our baby represents hope, not fear. Lady Vexandra looked at the young couple and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Pride in doing the right thing instead of the profitable thing. Her daughter had chosen love over duty, and now she would choose family over politics. We'll fight them, she said quietly, all of them, and we'll win. Outside, the protesters continued to argue about the future of human-alien relationships. But inside the cabin, 3 people from 2 different species made a promise to protect what they had created together, no matter what the cost. Dr. Alan Foster had been studying human evolution for most of his life, but the genetic data he was looking at now made him question everything he thought he knew. He sat in his hidden laboratory aboard the research ship, New Horizon, carefully analyzing blood samples that had been smuggled. Off-planet, this can't be natural. Evolution, he muttered to himself. Captain. Beth Reynolds looked over his shoulder at the screen, full of genetic sequences. What do you mean? Look at this pattern, Alan said, pointing to specific lines of code. Human DNA has genetic markers from at least 15 different alien species. But they're not random. They're organized like someone designed them to be there. Designed by who? That's what I'm trying to figure out. For 3 weeks, Alan had been secretly studying samples from Jake Morrison and other humans who had been tested. What he found was shocking. Every human he tested had alien genetic markers. Some had more than others, but all humans carried DNA from species they had supposedly never met. A soft alarm chimed, indicating an incoming message. Captain Reynolds activated the communication system, and Elder Quinara's ancient face appeared on the screen. Elder Quinara was over 800 years old and one of the last Zephyrians who remembered the old times. She rarely spoke to outsiders, but she had requested this meeting specifically. Dr. Foster, she said in a voice like dry leaves, I understand you are studying human genetics. Yes, Elder. I'm trying to understand how humans can be compatible with so many alien species. The old Zephyrian was quiet for a long moment. I have something to show you. Records that my family has kept secret for 700 years. She held up an ancient crystal that glowed with soft blue light. These are memory crystals from my ancestor. who lived during the time of the Builders. Alan felt his heart race. The Builders were a mysterious species that had disappeared long before humans left Earth. Most scientists thought they were just a legend. The Builders were real? He asked. Very real. And according to these records, they were responsible for your species. Alan stared at her. What do you mean? The Builders knew that the galaxy was slowly dying. Many species were becoming infertile due to an ancient plague that damaged our genetic material. So they created a solution. A species with DNA that could repair genetic damage in other races. You're saying the Builders made humans? Not made. Modified. They took an existing species from your planet and gave them special genetic abilities. They made humans into what you might call universal genetic healers. Captain Reynolds leaned forward. Why hasn't anyone known about this? Because the Builders made sure the knowledge was hidden. They knew that if people learned the truth too early, humans would be enslaved or destroyed by those who wanted to control their genetic gifts. Elder Quinara transferred the memory crystal data to their computer system. As Alan studied the ancient records, his hands shook with excitement and fear. This explains everything, he said. Humans weren't supposed to leave Earth until they were ready to handle being the galaxy's genetic saviors. But we left early before we understood what we were. Meanwhile, back on the planet, Lady Vexandra was making a discovery of her own. She had been searching through her family's old records, looking for evidence of previous human-Zephyrian relationships. In the basement of her mansion, she found boxes of documents that hadn't been opened in decades. Most were business records and property deeds, but one small box caught her attention. It was marked with her great-grandmother's name and the words, "Personal, do not open." Inside, she found letters, photographs, and medical records that made her gasp. Her great-grandmother had been married to a human trader named William Chen. They had 3 children together, including Lady Vexandra's grandmother. This can't be right, she said to herself. But the evidence was clear. Her family had human ancestry. She kept searching and found more shocking information. Her great-aunt had also married a human. Her second cousin had children with a human diplomat. The pattern went back for generations. Her family hadn't just tolerated human-Zephyrian relationships. They had been built on them. Lady Vexandra sat down heavily in an old chair, holding the photographs of her human great-grandfather. She had spent years looking down on humans as inferior beings, not knowing that she was part human herself. A noise from upstairs interrupted her thoughts. She quickly gathered the documents and headed back to the main floor, where she found Lyra Beth and Jake talking quietly in the sitting room. I need to tell you both something, she said, setting the box of papers on the table. I've discovered that our families have been connected for much longer than we thought. She showed them the photographs and letters. Jake stared at a picture of William Chen, who looked remarkably similar to Jake himself. Your great-grandfather was human? Lyra Beth asked in amazement. Yes. And apparently so were several other members of our family. We've been having human Zephyrian children for over 200 years. Jake picked up one of the medical records. But why didn't anyone know about this? Because it was kept secret. Back then, mixed relationships were even less accepted than they are now. Families hid their human ancestry to protect their social status. Lady Vexandra realized that her daughter's pregnancy wasn't unusual at all. It was actually a family tradition. There's more, she said, pulling out a letter written in her great-grandmother's handwriting. She writes about other families who also had human ancestors. The Kethril family, the House of Vorthak, even the current rulers of the Andromeda colonies. You're saying that many alien noble families have human blood? Lyra Beth asked. I'm saying that human-alien mixing has been happening for centuries, but everyone has been hiding it. At the same time, Dr. Elena Rodriguez was making her own shocking discovery. She had been analyzing genetic samples from prominent alien leaders when she noticed something strange. Marcus, look at this, she called to her assistant. I've been testing samples from the Galactic Council members, and guess what I found? Marcus looked at the data on her screen. Genetic markers for human DNA? Exactly. At least half of the current Galactic Council has human ancestry, including some of the ones who voted to classify humans as a controlled resource. They're trying to control humans while being part human themselves. It looks that way, and I bet they don't even know it. Their families probably hid their human blood just like Lady Vexandra's family did. Elena realized that this information could change everything. If the galaxy's leaders discovered they had human ancestry, They might stop trying to control humans and start accepting them as equals, but it could also make things worse. Some aliens might be so ashamed of their human blood that they would become even more hostile toward humans. That evening, all the researchers connected for a secret video conference. Dr. Foster shared the builder's records, Lady Vexandra shared her family history, and Dr. Rodriguez shared her genetic analysis of the Galactic Council. "So let me understand this," Jake said. "An ancient alien race modified humans to be genetic healers. Humans and aliens have been having children together for centuries, and many of the current alien leaders are secretly part human themselves." "That's exactly right," Dr. Foster confirmed. "Humans aren't just compatible with other species by accident. You were designed to save the galaxy from genetic collapse." Lyrabeth put her hand on her stomach where their baby was growing. "Our child isn't just half human and half Zephyrian. It's part of a plan that's been in motion for thousands of years." Lady Vexandra looked at Jake with new respect. "You're not just a maintenance worker who fell in love with my daughter. You're a descendant of the galaxy's salvation." Professor Xyloth, who had been listening quietly, finally spoke. "This information is dangerous. If certain people learn the truth, they might try to destroy all evidence of human-alien mixing. But if we use it wisely, it could bring peace to the galaxy." Elena nodded. "We need to be very careful about how we reveal this. Too fast and we cause panic. Too slow and humans might be enslaved or worse." Jake looked around at all the serious faces on the screen. "What do we do?" "We prepare," Lady Vexandra said firmly. "We gather more evidence, we contact other families with hidden human ancestry, and we build a coalition strong enough to protect humanity's future." Alan Foster pulled up a star map showing the locations of various alien civilizations. According to the builder's records, there are human genetic markers in dozens of species across the galaxy. We're not talking about a few mixed families. We're talking about the genetic foundation of galactic civilization. "Then we'd better get started," Jake said, "because I have a feeling our baby is going to grow up in a very different galaxy than the one we know now." As the conference ended, each person knew that they were sitting on information that could reshape the balance of power among the stars. The question was whether they could use that information to build a better future, or whether it would tear the galaxy apart. 6 months later, Lyrabeth held her newborn son in her arms and marveled at how perfect he was. Baby Alex Morrison Vex had his father's brown hair and his mother's silver eyes. His skin was a beautiful pale blue that seemed to glow with health and energy. "He's strong," Dr. Elena Rodriguez said, checking the baby's vital signs. "Stronger than either human or Zephyrian babies usually are at birth." Jake sat beside Lyrabeth's bed, gently touching his son's tiny hand. "What does that mean?" "It means the genetic combination worked perfectly," Elena explained. "Alex has the best qualities of both species, plus some new abilities we've never seen before." Professor Xyloth, who had been monitoring the birth, looked amazed. "His brain activity is remarkable. It's like he can process information from both human and Zephyrian neural patterns." Lady Vexandra stood at the foot of the bed, watching her grandson with tears in her eyes. 6 months ago, she had been angry and ashamed about her daughter's pregnancy. Now she was proud and protective of her mixed-species family. "He's going to change everything," she said softly. She was right. In the months leading up to Alex's birth, the galaxy had been in turmoil. But it wasn't the kind of chaos that Lady Vexandra had feared. Instead, it was the chaos of discovery and change. Dr. Foster's research about the builders had been shared with trusted scientists across the galaxy. The evidence was overwhelming. Humans had been designed to save other species from genetic collapse, and they had been doing it successfully for centuries without anyone realizing it. Lady Vexandra had used her wealth and influence to contact other noble families about their hidden human ancestry. What she found was shocking. Nearly every major family in Zephyrian society had human blood. The same was true for dozens of other species. "We weren't being invaded by humans," she had told a secret gathering of noble families. "We were being saved by them." The revelation had split alien society in two. Some groups, led by the conservative Kethrak Empire, insisted that human genetic influence was contamination that needed to be stopped. They wanted all mixed species families to be separated and all human-alien relationships to be banned. But other groups, including many of the galaxy's most powerful families, realized that their prosperity and health depended on their human ancestry. They began openly supporting human rights and integration. President Carol Martinez had arrived from Earth just in time to see the political landscape shift. She now sat in Lady Vexiandra's sitting room, holding baby Alex while discussing the future of human-alien relations. The Galactic Council has agreed to a new treaty, she told the assembled group. Humans will be recognized as a sovereign species with full rights. Any attempt to control human reproduction or relationships will be considered an act of war. Ambassador Kate Sullivan nodded approvingly. It wasn't easy to negotiate. But when council members learned about their own human ancestry, most of them changed their position quickly. Jake looked up from where he was organizing baby supplies. What about the species that still oppose us? They're becoming isolated, President Martinez said. When families start choosing between their political beliefs and their genetic health, most choose health. Dr. Sam Parker, who had been appointed director of the new Interspecies Medical Institute, entered the room carrying a datapad full of reports. The results keep getting better, he said excitedly. We now have confirmed pregnancies between humans and 17 different alien species. All the babies are healthy and many show enhanced abilities. Elena smiled. It's like humans really are universal genetic healers, just like the builders intended. Professor Zyloth had become one of the strongest advocates for human-alien cooperation. My own research has benefited enormously from working with human scientists. We solve problems faster when we combine our different ways of thinking. Lady Vexandra looked around the room at the mix of humans and aliens working together. I've decided to convert my trading company into something new. The Vexandra Foundation will support mixed-species families and fund genetic research. That's wonderful, President Martinez said. But are you sure you want to give up your business empire? I'm not giving it up. I'm redirecting it towards something more important than profit. Lady Vexandra looked at her grandson sleeping peacefully in the president's arms. I want Alex to grow up in a galaxy where his mixed heritage is celebrated, not hidden. Jake had been quiet during most of the conversation, but now he spoke up. What about people like me? Regular humans who don't understand all this genetic science? Dr. Foster leaned forward. Jake, you and others like you are the most important people in the galaxy. You're proof that humans don't need to be scientists or diplomats to make a difference. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply fall in love. Ambassador Sullivan nodded. The new treaty includes provisions for protecting ordinary humans from exploitation. No one can force humans to participate in genetic programs or arranged marriages. Love has to be freely chosen. Baby Alex made a soft sound and opened his eyes. He looked around the room at all the faces, human and alien, and seemed to smile. He knows we're all family, Lyra Beth said, gently taking her son back from President Martinez. Over the following weeks, the changes continued to spread across the galaxy. Mixed-species colonies were established where human-alien families could live openly. Universities created new programs to study interspecies genetics and cooperation. The Kethrock Empire and a few other conservative groups continued to resist, but they found themselves increasingly isolated. When their own citizens started leaving to join mixed communities, their opposition began to weaken. Jake had been offered positions as a diplomat or genetic research subject, but he chose to stay in engineering. He now supervised the construction of new infrastructure designed for mixed-species communities. Someone has to make sure the water pipes work in the new world, he joked when people asked why he didn't want a more prestigious job, but his real reason was simpler. He wanted to prove that ordinary humans could contribute to galactic civilization without giving up who they were. Lyra Beth had become a spokesperson for mixed-species families. She traveled to different worlds, sharing her story and helping other couples navigate the challenges of cross-species relationships. Love doesn't ask about your DNA, she would tell audiences. It just asks if you're willing to build something beautiful together. Lady Vexandra found more purpose in her new role than she had ever found in business. The Vexandra Foundation grew rapidly, supporting hundreds of mixed families and funding research that helped solve genetic problems across dozens of species. 1 year after Alex's birth, she hosted a celebration at her mansion. The guest list included humans and aliens from across the galaxy, many of them mixed couples with their own children. Dr. Elena Rodriguez presented the latest research findings. We now have over 3,000 documented cases of successful human-alien reproduction. Fertility rates among participating species have increased by an average of 40%. Professor Zyloth added, more importantly, We're seeing new forms of cooperation and understanding between species. When your children are mixed heritage, you can't maintain old prejudices. President Martinez raised a toast. To the future, a galaxy where our differences make us stronger, not weaker. Jake held baby Alex, who was now walking and had learned to say simple words in both English and Zephyrian. Alex, what do you think about all this? The toddler looked up at his father with his silver eyes and said clearly, family. Everyone in the room smiled. Alex was right, they had all become family. Not through politics or treaties, but through the simple act of choosing love over fear. As the celebration continued into the night, Lady Vexandra stood on her balcony looking up at the stars. Each point of light represented a world where humans and aliens were learning to live together as equals. She thought about her great-grandmother, who had hidden her human husband's identity to protect their children. Now those same children's descendants were celebrated as bridges between worlds. You would be proud, she whispered to the stars. Inside the house, Jake and Lyra Beth put Alex to bed, reading him a story about brave explorers who discovered new worlds. But they knew that the real exploration was just beginning. The exploration of what the galaxy could become when different species worked together as one family. The wealthy alien mother who had once been stunned to find her daughter pregnant was no longer stunned by anything. She had learned that the most impossible things were often the most necessary ones. And in the nursery, baby Alex slept peacefully, dreaming dreams that spanned the stars. Dreams of a future where love truly could conquer all.